Avowed is a single-player RPG by Obsidian Entertainment set to be released in February of 2025. And if you don't know who Obsidian Entertainment is, they've also made games like Fallout New Vegas, which is my favorite Fallout game, Knights of the Old Republic, which is, in my opinion, probably the best game they've ever released, but also some other ones too that I found that were quite enjoyable, like The Outer Worlds most recently, as well as Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. But although I have enjoyed Obsidian games in the past, I am definitely a little bit hesitant and skeptical about what Avowed has to offer, and that's coming from someone who is excited for this game, because as an RPG fan and someone who loves the genre and covers games within the genre, I'm usually excited about a game coming out from a company I've enjoyed in the past that is obviously also set to be an RPG, which is my favorite genre. But before I get into my thoughts on why I'm hesitant and skeptical, albeit still excited about this game, thank you guys so much for 800 subscribers. I really appreciate the support lately on the channel. If you are new to this channel and you like gaming news and gaming reviews, specifically with action, adventure, and RPG games, and you like the video you see here, please subscribe and like the video. It helps me out a lot. I would really appreciate it. Now, let's get into the content. So I want to preface my thoughts, and a lot of people have said this in my comment section, which I think holds very true, that you need to follow talent instead of the company. These companies change. There are different people that are brought into these companies, and it's not the same teams with the same dynamics and the same chemistry, and again, the same talent that we saw when games like Knights of the Old Republic were created, or Pillars of Eternity, or Fallout New Vegas, for example. These companies also get bought out, get more corporatized, and things change in terms of their internal processes and how they approach game making in general. And no, this is not a surefire reason that Avowed is going to be bad. Absolutely not. Avowed could be a great game, because we have seen companies that, even though they change over time, still maintain a lot of their company culture, still maintain some of their leadership, and still maintain the way that they make games, and it's carried on and trained and developed into some of the new people that join the team. That's absolutely true. But on the other end, we've seen a lot of companies as of late completely change the way they make games, become much more corporatized, and pretty much make games where they used to make incredible projects, and now they're a little bit more bland, the tone is completely different, and the games aren't enjoyed by the same player base that they used to be enjoyed from. And I'm a little bit hesitant that this is going to be one of the circumstances where Obsidian is a lot more corporatized. They're not able to take the same risks that they took. They do have a much different team than we've seen back in the past, and their track record as of late, at least when I played a game that was probably going to be the most similar to Avowed, which is The Outer Worlds, it was just okay. It definitely didn't have a lot of choices and dialogue options that changed things in a meaningful way. The game was relatively bland overall. I don't think it had a lot of greatness to it. I think it hit at a perfect storm, with Fallout 76 being terrible and this game kind of being the alternate to that. But that gets into my point here, where I think Avowed's going to run into the exact opposite issue that they did with the whole Outer Worlds fiasco, where this game blew up for the sole reason that Fallout 76 was bad. Because this game, like I mentioned in my last video, is releasing in February of 2025 with some of the most anticipated games of next year. And though luckily it's not releasing in fall 2025 with a more anticipated RPG, in my opinion, like Crimson Desert, or the most anticipated game of all time in GTA 6, but it is releasing in the same month of games like Monster Hunter Wilds. That's a big one. The new Like a Dragon, Civilization 7, the most anticipated RPG, at least for me, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and also a game that's surrounded obviously in a ton of drama and controversy, which people are going to play it just to see if it's good, or the complete ruination of Ubisoft in Assassin's Creed Shadows. So like I mentioned, whether you're excited about these games or not, as a player, you're going to have a lot of time potentially put into other games aside from Avowed. Content creators are also probably going to be more likely to talk about these other games as well instead of Avowed, and might not have time to showcase Avowed in the same way. But now let's get to some other reasons here, and this is one thing that I prefaced earlier, where Obsidian is definitely a lot more corporatized and isn't able to make their own decisions like they were prior to Xbox buying them in November of 2018. Xbox has definitely already been pushing some anti-consumer practices, specifically with the monetization for this upcoming game, Avowed. Now, although I think Obsidian Entertainment is able to put out a AAA quality game, they're considered generally a AA studio, and with Xbox coming in and making sure this game is being released at $70, I don't think is necessarily fair in terms of the pre-orders for this game. On top of this, there's a $90 version that's going to give you things like 5-day early access bonus, with some other things thrown in there as well, like a soundtrack and some skins. And no, I don't think I even need to get into the reason why a $90 5-day early access where everyone else has to pay $90 just to play the game late is bullshit. I don't even think I need to get into why $70 for a AA studio, or at least one that's generally considered a AA studio, is bullshit. I think we can all agree that this is pretty anti-consumer overall. But I do want to mention also a good thing where this game is going to be on Game Pass. You won't be able to play it early from what I know on Game Pass. You will have to cough up that $90, which is going to really feed on the fear of missing out for a lot of people, which I do not appreciate, I do not like. But if you do want to wait to play this game on Game Pass, you will be able to play it with that subscription, which is a good thing. But again, I just think it's a red flag to put this in your pre-orders. It doesn't show confidence in your upcoming game. It shows that you want to get as much money up front as possible, which is something that I think is a bit of a red flag anytime developers or specifically publishers decide to do this. And again, no, this does not mean it's going to be a bad game. It's just a red flag. Now, the next reason I think we should be hesitant and skeptical about Avowed is the track record for Obsidian as of late. They've only released 2 games since 2019, which is The Outer Worlds and Pentiment, both considered okay games, with The Outer Worlds being something a lot more similar to what we're going to be getting in Avowed. And like I mentioned, Outer Worlds hit at a perfect storm. Fallout 76 was the other game that was up with competition with The Outer Worlds, and it was a game that was impossible to play for a lot of people because of the amount of bugs and the overall disappointment about the game as a whole. And The Outer Worlds was an outlet in a different game that people could play and enjoy. And although I did enjoy my time with this game, it wasn't an overly great game. It was just a good game. I think it lacked a vision. I think it lacked a lot of good choices and dialogue options, and it had some really good characters that they did do really well, but overall, it was just an okay game. It was definitely nothing out of this world by any means, no pun intended. And with the nature of the gaming industry today, everybody's searching for that next masterpiece, and I think we need to be very cautious that Avowed is probably not going to be that next masterpiece. It might be, who absolutely knows until February, but I'm a little bit worried it's going to be a lot more like The Outer Worlds, and on top of that, it's going to be sold for that full price. And everything that I've seen from Avowed so far, I don't think is overly convincing me that this is going to be this big, great game. I think there's very glaring issues, specifically with stuff like the combat here, that looks very bland. It looks like it's a little bit lacking of impact and reminds me of the old Elder Scrolls combat back all the way in Skyrim in like 2011, which was okay for its time, but 10, 15 years later, I think we're coming to expect RPGs to have a lot better combat and a lot better mechanics than what we've seen so far. Now, that's not to say it's bad. There's a lot of combat systems that I think look bad that end up being very fun to play, and we won't know obviously until February when we actually get our hands on the game, but that's just my first overall thoughts. There are some other things that I think do look good about this game though, and there are some reasons to be excited. Number one, it's another RPG, and I love playing RPGs, so I'm excited for the sole purpose that it's another RPG from a company I have enjoyed from their games in the past. But also, there does seem to be pretty good dialogue options and choices and consequences based on that, which I think looks relatively good. We've seen a couple of these already where you just find a random guy on the side of the road, you can choose to kill him, you can choose to let him live, there's going to be different consequences based on that, you can loot his dead body if you do decide to kill him, and I think some stuff like that is relatively good, and hopefully they have a lot of that within the game. Hopefully those dialogue options and those consequences do end up being meaningful long-term within that experience. However, there's also some other issues that I think are a little bit glaring to me, like the tone of the game. I'm a little bit sick and tired at this point of like the Disney and Marvel-like tone, which kind of seems to be the tone that they're going to bring, especially because the first trailer was definitely more dark fantasy, dark and gritty, and then everything after that seemed to be a complete 180 of what we were expecting from that original trailer, which again doesn't put a great taste in my mouth. It does seem to be leaning towards more of that quote-unquote Dragon Age the Veilguard tone where, yes, don't hate me, but I did enjoy a decent amount of what that game had to offer, but one part that I didn't was the tone of that game. I wanted more dark and gritty fantasy where these companies aren't afraid to take risks and really go dark in a lot of these different moments, and I have a weird feeling that Avowed isn't going to do that. And if that's not the game they want to make, they don't want to make that type of tone, that's completely fine. It's just something that I think makes me a little bit less excited for the overall experience. They're also only targeting 30 FPS for this game on Xbox, which is something not everybody cares about, but me personally, I like playing my games, whether they're single player, multiplayer, whatever they end up being, I like playing my games in 60 FPS. It's something that I notice greatly. It's something that I enjoy more when the game is able to be played in 60 FPS, and I hope they're able to get it up to that 60 FPS mark, because I don't think in 2025 we should still be releasing brand new games on brand new consoles at 30 FPS. But all in all, I think it's still okay to be excited for this game, obviously. Again, like I mentioned, it's an RPG, and if you're a fan of RPGs, this is one coming out from a company that has made a lot of RPGs, so hopefully it comes out and I'm wrong, and a lot of this is just really Xbox's doing, and it's pushing it forward, and a lot of these red flags can be cured when we end up playing the game. I never want a game to come out and be bad. I don't like shitting on games. I like being positive and balanced about my critiques on games, and I'm hoping this is a game that comes out that really does prove me wrong in terms of everything that I'm saying so far that I am hesitant and skeptical about. I don't know if I'm going to get to this game in February because of everything else that's releasing, but I'll definitely get to this game specifically because I do have Game Pass, and I'm not really someone who's going to go in and play this game 5 days early, so I'm going to play it on Game Pass. I probably will talk about and review this game if I get time to play it a little bit later after Kingdom Come Deliverance and Monster Hunter Wilds, which I'm going to put probably 200 hours or more into each of those games. And I hope, again, I am proved wrong and this game ends up coming out and being a very solid, or if not a good experience for the players and for myself. Thank you guys for watching the video. I really appreciate the support on the channel as of late. I would love to hear down in the comments what you guys think about this. Are you hesitant about this game, or are you excited? Are you going to be playing this over some of the other games in February? I would love to hear down below in the comments. Like the video if you like the video, and subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.